Good morning. We have a rare treat for you today that we're live.
We're live.
We're live. A lot of times we pre-record this, but good morning and welcome to Let's Talk Movies with Moira and Shannon. Want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Moira Gimateo, and I know Shannon because of TACA, the Autism Community in Action, families getting together and sharing what helps their kiddos, and it's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
You were my mentor a million years ago, and I've always learned so much from you, and I respect and admire you so much. You are such a wealth of knowledge, and people ask me all the time, like, if I have a question, like, who do I run to? And it's almost always you.
Aw,
So there you go.
Wow.
So I'm so excited. We've been doing this for over a year now.
I was just talking about that the other day, and it still kind of blows my mind. I'm like, it's such a thrill, and it feels like, I would pay you to do this because I love this so much.
Don't say that too loudly. Somebody might hear that. But no, because I think, we're both people who we have some things in common, that we're both moms in the autism community, advocating for our kids, but we both were also posting on Facebook about movies that we had seen and talking about them. And I would post something and go off on something, and you would say, that's funny because I really liked it.
Yeah.
And you were the person who said, I kind of feel like we're Siskel and Ebert, that we're on the different sides. And then I went, okay, well, that's it then. You have to come on, and we did an Oscar show, and we got such a big reaction about it. We've been doing it ever since.
Ever since, yeah.
So we're going to review a bunch of movies today, but we are live right now on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and a dozen other sites. Our fabulous Traven is going to show you some of the different ways that you can connect with us if you're watching us live. Of course, it will be podcast later on, and we are a free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. It is under the Autism Live podcast, which is also available. There is an Autism Live app, and so you can automatically be getting this show and other shows being done here on the Autism Network. It was available last week on if you had an Apple device, but now, because Traven is fabulous, it's available on Android devices too. It's free, and then it just automatically updates so that if you want to go back and watch shows, you can go back and do that. So that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. We do want to tell you, though, that we love when you guys interact with us. This is why we're doing this live today. So we want to hear from you. Whatever platform you're watching on, if you're watching live on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, you can just write in that platform, and we can receive that right here on our iPads. I didn't tell you that you have an iPad there too, if you would like to see it.
All right.
And I'll have them here too as well. But we usually like to start with a little bit of an update if there's anything going on at TACA.
Yeah, we just wrapped up. We had done our Take Action conference series. That was the entire month of April, and it just wrapped up because I think, well, actually, if you did register for that, make sure to keep watching the recorded content because it's going to go away on May 31st. So I'm just thinking, what day is it today? So yeah, watch whatever you haven't had a chance to watch. We have some new scholarships that are available, so take a look-see, and
so informative when you guys do those things.
Yeah, and a bunch of new articles. We've got an article out on housing, and an article for employers of like what things they might want to do if they want to hire somebody on the spectrum.
Amazing.
Yeah, so
I want to check that out, because we sometimes, have interns and hire people on the spectrum, so I want to check that out. You guys do amazing work. I always say that their website is the best website for autism that there is. I say that in front of you and behind your back, because I believe it to be true. So if you go to tacanow.org, thank you, Traven, for putting it on the screen. There's everything under the sun, and I always tell people it's the greatest place to go, but start with the question that you most have, because there's so much information. It really is, you could go down the rabbit hole and stay down for a week. It'll be exciting, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize this is a great free resource. But start with the thing that you want to know about, and they have a great search bar.
Yep, and then we also have checklists, which I think helps people keep organized, because that's the thing. It's very easy to get overwhelmed when you're starting out. Even now, the information overload, so the checklists are really super helpful.
And I think that you guys are a great organization. If you're feeling burnt, if you're like, today I just don't have the energy to do that, I would encourage you to go on there and just find one thing. It might be that you decide to ask for a journey guide. It might be that you decide to go to a virtual coffee talk. It might be, that you read one article but I do think that your batteries get refreshed, and then I really encourage you to attend in some way, shape, or form one of the conferences, that you guys do, because that is the big battery recharge.
Yep, and then we have our in-person one coming up in October in Orange County. So if you can join us for that, that would be great too.
Amazing. I want to try to get to that one this year. I wasn't able to come last year because I was in Seattle. But I love them. I love them. And you get to meet all kinds of amazing people that are on all different kinds of journeys. And I always learn something that I did not know. I walk in and I go, well, how did I not know about that? You know, absolutely amazing. Okay, so check that out, tacanow.org. Thanks for the update on that.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, shall we get started with
do it.
What are you watching? Because I've been watching a lot, more than we're going to get to today.
Yep.
Because I need to binge a little bit on a bunch of stuff recently. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I have been. Yeah.
And there's been some good stuff, and there's also been some woof woof stuff. But let's see if we can sort all that out. So let's take a look at. Here we go. We're gonna start with our first film, and if you haven't watched before, it's not doing it for me, Traven.
Uh-oh. There it is.
There it is. Okay.
All right.
So Moira's going to talk first and give us a little bit of rundown in her opinion, and then I tag team later.
Tag team in. Okay. So first one is Man Called Otto, and it is, you know, as you can see, Tom Hanks and the fabulous Mariana Trevino, who I now adore and will be a fan of forever. So as much as I like Tom Hanks, I didn't expect that I would like this movie, but it won me over. Hanks plays Otto, a grouchy man who complains about everything. All the while, he polices his neighborhood, correcting the way people recycle, trying to stop people from driving through the you know, using the neighborhood as a drive-through for a larger condo complex. And he's just very grouchy. And then we find out that he is grieving the death of his wife and is looking to end things. But his plans are constantly interrupted by helping his new neighbors. They're a young family that's moved in with 2 small children and another on the way, and the very pregnant mom, played by the fantastic Mariana Trevino. She steals every scene. I adore her. And every time he tries to retreat into his grief, the trials and everything of all his neighbors intrude. And he even ends up with an unwanted pet cat. And then we watch flashbacks with Otto's early life, when he meets his wife. And the young Otto is played by Tom Hanks' son, Truman Hanks. And it's neat because he can't turn away from the human needs, from the cat needs, and it shows his humanity underneath this very cranky exterior. And I just love the way it unfolded. It was a great role for Hanks. I kind of hated him in as Colonel Parker in Elvis.
Yeah.
And this was like, this is why Tom Hanks is a treasure.
Yeah.
This film, because it's like, yes, exactly perfect. And she keeps pace with them, Mariana Trevino, and there's a wonderful scene I won't spoil that was so delightful when she gets some information that she didn't previously have, and her reaction, it's perfect. Yeah. I was surprised because I really did not have high expectations. What did you think?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it. And when we sat down to watch it, I said to my husband, I believe that there's 2 different types of Tom Hanks movies. There's really good movies, like really good movies, and then there's really bad movies. You know, Turner and Hooch, come on. Joe versus the Island or the volcano or whatever that is. I mean, you know, and I thought that this was going to be one of the really bad ones. And I thought that because I wasn't hearing a lot of buzz about it.
Right.
It kind of came out and went, and I didn't hear anything. So I thought, oh, it's going to be one of those cringy Tom Hanks, because I didn't like him as Colonel Parker either. And then we started to watch it, and I got very emotional about halfway in, and I turned to my husband. I said, it's one of the great ones. I didn't know. And it was so funny because I'd done a little review of it online, and Rachel Bird, which we have to say, today is Kobe Bird's 21st birthday, so we're saying happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Kobe.
So Rachel Bird, his mom, who's, she does a show here with us too, and she's a dear friend of mine, she saw my review, and she watched it, and the other day I'm at work at my desk, and my phone rings, and it's her at a time of day she doesn't normally call me, and I answer it, and she said, "You didn't tell me I was gonna cry." And I said, "Oh, I try not to give too much away." But I do want to say, I think it is one of the greats. It's a very unexpected role from Tom Hanks. It's not his usual fare. The supporting cast is absolutely amazing.
Yes.
But I do want to say that this is an adult film. That after we both were raving about it, somebody said, "Oh, well, I'm going to watch this with my child," and we both went, "Oh, okay, wait a second. There's very adult themes in this movie. I don't want to give it away, but there's very adult themes in this movie." And
Yeah.
but I will say that there's a lot of stuff about suicidal ideation.
Yes.
So it is not something to be shown lightly to even a teenager, but it's a great movie. I think this is going to go down in history as being in the very much high in the plus column of movies that he has done.
For him, yeah,
I thought it was
absolutely.
absolutely remarkable.
Yeah.
So
and for the Mindhunter fans, I don't know, the neighbor that is doing all the exercises, he was the actor Cameron Breton, I believe his name is, who played Ed Kemper in the Mindhunter. So totally unrecognizable. And I was like looking at the credits, going, "Wait a minute, what?" You know?
But here's my question to you that I've been asking everybody that has seen the movie and liked it: did you see autism in this movie? Because I did, but everybody else says
Wait, the character of Otto. Yeah, I could see that.
that there were several different clues. They don't say that,
Right,
but there were several different clues about how he is about
How he
social
managed
anxiety, how he manages social interactions, his idea of perspective taking, his early interactions with who became his wife, how he in fact proposes to her,
Right.
and how she deals with that, and how he gets through his life with her, that she helps him decode.
Right.
I thought that Otto was on our team.
All right.
So
There's an argument there for that. Yeah.
okay. Anyway, so on to our next film.
Our next
and here it is.
Prodigious.
What we've all been waiting for. Cocaine Bear.
Yes.
Yes.
Cocaine Bear. Okay. Let's start off right away and say this is not high art. All right, I get that. It's highly unlikely it'll be nominated for anything except maybe best use of severed limbs. But it's the premise is simple. A drug lord transports a large amount of cocaine via small airplane, and the coked up pilot, played delightfully by Matthew Rhys of Perry Mason and The
Yeah,
Americans,
love him.
fabulous guy, ends up crashing in the forest, and a bear finds the stash. So we have children in peril, a park ranger with a secret crush, hapless bad guys trying to find the coke. All the characters converge, having to outwit the strung out bear to survive. Now this is based on a true story, but as is the usual case, this real story is just sad. I mean, the bear in question ended up dying of an overdose, so it's very, very sad. So putting that aside, because it's so sad, this is basically your slasher film, Beast of the Week film. And honestly, this is the first movie I wished I'd seen with a crowd, you know, because it's so over the top. And I think it's campy. And I think that if I'd been in an audience when things were happening and listening to the reactions, it would have added to it. And we were watching it. We actually watched it as a family. We watched it with my son, and he just thought it was hilarious, you know. And we told him, you know, it's not, you know, not real life, you know, kind of thing. But ridiculous. But I think it's a popcorn movie. It's silly. You go in with very low expectations. You won't be disappointed. And I know you hated it.
Oh, I just hated it. I just hated it. I hated every part of it. I have publicly said that I think that Elizabeth Banks should not be allowed to direct it anymore.
Oh!
I literally, as a woman, I try to support all women, and I want to support women directors, and I feel like she's working against us. And I tried to not hold it against her Pitch Perfect 2, which was also horrible. But I just don't think she's a good director. I mean, please, I know people are going to be like, you didn't get it, you know, it's supposed to be funny. Look, I watched Sharknado, and I could get through Sharknado and laugh. I didn't laugh at this.
Oh,
like,
okay.
This, you know, for me, it's like, you know, I don't even know how to explain it, but there's a line, right? And if you're going to go over the line, you got to be mindful of how you go over the line and when you go over the line. And I felt that it goes over the line in all the wrong places.
Okay.
And look at all the people that she got to be in this film. I mean, you know, and I hate that this is going to go down in history as Ray Liotta's last film. I just hate that. And I didn't think it was funny. I thought the gore was way too realistic. If you wanted it to be funny, you needed to go a little bit further. But it was realistic gore, and I mean, I get it. There's a level of physical comedy when somebody's getting hurt that in general as humanity we can find funny. It's the reason why America's Funniest Home Videos exists. I understand that concept, but when you're seeing somebody being drugged by an ambulance face down, and it's not funny to me.
Okay.
It's not funny to me. I was like, man, this is just really. It's not like I almost want to say that they didn't go far enough.
Okay, interesting.
In order to make it funny, because it was just realistic, and I thought it was sad. And you know, yeah, I hated it.
Okay.
Let's move on.
All right, let's move on.
Hated it. And I love Elizabeth Banks. I love her as a performer. She should stop directing.
Okay, there you go.
There we go. Okay, moving on.
Moving on. Oh yes, Schmigadoon season 2. This one they call it Schmicago, which gives you kind of a hint. I don't know if well, we've both seen the first season. The first season was very much an homage to Rodgers and Hammerstein and the MGM musicals, and I spent that season giggling to the references of like Oklahoma, Carousel, Music Man, and Brigadoon, which the title is a spoof of. So it made sense that they would change it and call it Schmicago, and it's an homage to the more gritty musicals like Sweeney Todd, Cabaret, Jesus Christ Superstar, a little bit of Godspell, Chicago, Sweet Charity, Pippin, you know, all those things. And our lead couple had returned from Schmigadoon and they're missing it. So they're trying to go back and find it again, and they end up finding Schmicago instead. So I kind of like that premise. And I thought it was really fun, and I loved the references to the musical theater, but I feel like it lost a little bit of steam near the end, and I wasn't sad to say goodbye to it, but I enjoyed the moments. It reminded me of the Ruddles. I don't know if you ever saw the Ruddles. That's a spoof about the Beatles. It's a documentary. It's from ages ago. Some of the Python people are involved in that. Eric Idle was in that. But what was cool about that was what was cool about this is the spoof songs, you kind of recognized, oh, that's neat, but they still worked with what they were trying to do. So I appreciated that. And like my favorite moment was the song Sour Macaroon.
Yes.
Because it was a parody of Faded Mandarin, which is a song I've never really understood in Jesus Christ Superstar, but I love the way it's performed. So I love that even the character was like, I don't know why I called you Sour Macaroon. You know?
Yeah, it doesn't even make sense. I don't even know what it means.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward, if they do another season, to maybe doing Come From Away, Hamilton, some of the more, you know, I don't know if they're going to skip over Andrew Lloyd Webber and go straight, you know, who knows.
Yeah,
but
do them all.
Yeah, they can do them all. Or Les Mis, like you mentioned. Yeah. So it was fun.
Yeah. I couldn't get through season 1. I watched like the first couple of episodes and I went, yeah, okay, that's enough for me. It wasn't that I hated it.
Right.
It just was, I was like, I don't really get all the jokes because the Rodgers and Hammerstein really aren't my musicals.
Wasn't your thing,
It wasn't my era. And so I wasn't quite enjoying it at the level that other people that I knew were like, oh my gosh, it's so clever, it's so wonderful. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm missing something. But I was sort of excited about this season because this is my musical.
This is your genre.
I mean, Pippin, and you know, right when I was graduating high school and first went to New York City, these were the musicals that were there. So it was sort of now some of them not. Like Sweeney Todd, I wouldn't get the Sweeney Todd jokes because I've never seen Sweeney Todd. So I enjoyed this one more. There were more things for me to get, and I find that when I know the musical and know which song they're spoofing, that it's much more fun. I also think this is one that you get together with other people and you watch, and everybody sort of weighs in, and especially if you had a bunch of musical theater friends.
People,
But I feel like it's not the kind of thing to binge. This is like a half an hour of it is
enough.
just about enough. It's like cotton candy. It's clever. It's funny. You'll laugh. It's very enjoyable, and there's some performances that are to die for. I mean, they're handpicking people who have been on Broadway that can really deliver. I mean, come on, Alan Cummings. Come on, I don't have to know Sweeney Todd to appreciate him and Kristen Chenoweth doing a number together. It doesn't matter what it's from. I'm into it. But I don't think it's something. It's not, if you binge it, it's like eating cotton candy.
I think you're right, because we did not binge it, and I think that was the way to, it was our little palate cleanser after more heavier films. Like, okay, let's watch this. It's a lighthearted romp, so that was good. But I don't know, I'm curious to see if they get a season 3, so.
Yeah, if they go on to the next season, if they do the Andrew Lloyd Webbers, I would be very excited to see that too. But and Hamilton, I think there's a lot of fodder there.
Yeah.
And Les Mis. They did a little bit of Les Mis in this season, but
Well, and I guess Jesus Christ Superstar is Andrew Lloyd Webber, isn't it?
it is.
Duh.
Oh, there we go. Okay, well, Amanda has said ouch. I don't see that on my my comments for whatever reason, but I'm assuming that's to me saying that Elizabeth Banks should not be allowed to direct again.
Oh, probably, yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'll give her another chance. I love her.
I would like to see her in everything as an actress, but not directing again. Okay, onward and upward. Let's move on to other fluffy things.
Firefly Lane, the last season of Firefly Lane, and it's about two friends, and we're flashing backward and forward in time to when they were teenagers, and then to the fabulous 80s with the wonderful, polka dotted tights and and belts and big hair. And it's, I enjoyed this, and I enjoyed watching the whole thing. I binged it all, and I feel like it is a good casting for the two of them. I think that, Katherine Heigl is well cast as kind of the prickly, ambitious, but softy on the inside person. And I'm thrilled that women's fiction, as we call it, is being given a platform and being shown as profitable. Because, much like Bridgerton, I'm a little disappointed that they picked I've read this author who this is based on, and I've read better. But this worked, and it was fine. And then same with Bridgerton, I've read that author, and I've read better. But I love what they've done with it. So I'm like, just keep being successful, because often when things that are female-based are successful, it's considered a fluke, much like Bridesmaids, or, the things that were like mega hits, and then like, well, that won't happen again. It's like, yeah, it will.
Wake up.
Yeah, wake up, exactly. And, and I'm a lifelong reader of romance novels, and it's wonderful. But let's see, what did I say about this? Yeah, I like the female relationship being explored, and I like that they can screw up, and then they can have moments of just complete disconnect and moments of coming together. And I like that the focus was really their relationship, on all of it. And, I was really invested. And, like I said, I'm happy to see this genre being successful, because as I always say, that romance novels are written by women, about women, for women, focusing on women's concerns. And I think the distaste or the trashy romance moniker is misogyny, and I'm like, no, we like to know about women's concerns, or I do. So
absolutely.
Anyway,
Me too.
Yeah.
This is a guilty pleasure of mine. I have to say, they called it 2 seasons, but it was sort of 3 seasons.
Yeah, it was sort of 3.
Because they did 1 season, and then they did the first half of the 2nd season, and then they did the finale. And I loved the first season so much. And I don't always love when we jump back and forth in time, but they did it well, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. And I love Katherine Heigl. I am not a huge Sarah Chalke fan, so I tolerated her well, because she did well enough in it, and the script and the direction supported it well enough. When they got into the first half of the 2nd season, it became much more about her and less about Katherine Heigl, and I didn't love that as much.
Yeah.
I have to say, they needed to balance it out. Then we came back for this last season. It's so worth it. It's very cathartic. We don't want to give things away, but obviously at the end of the first half of the second season, it's revealed that the Sarah Chalk character has cancer. So, you know,
We're dealing with that.
And you know, people have said to me, "Oh, it's so derivative. It's so like so many other movies." And my response to them is, "Yeah, I love it. I don't care. I don't really care if it robs from 13 other movies, and we've heard this story before. I don't care. I need it. I want it."
And it's how you do it, right?
And here's the other thing. Throughout the course of this 2 seasons, they covered a lot of different ground about things, as you said, women's issues. Like they covered miscarriages in a way that we don't see covered, and I'm all about that.
Yes.
Why are miscarriages something that we're not allowed to talk about, that we're not allowed to see on television, and that we don't get to see how it affects both the women and the men who are involved when somebody loses a baby? So I loved that they took all those things on. You know, don't bother telling me. I loved it.
Yeah.
So leave me alone.
Like, go away.
You know, I don't. It doesn't have to be Oscar worthy.
No.
But you know, it was good storytelling, no matter how you shook it down, except for a little bit of the season 2 beginning. I felt like they kind of missed their mark a little bit, but they came back strong for the finale.
Yes, they did.
It's a 5-hanky affair.
Yes.
But I love that.
Yes.
I love getting
100%.
to wash my eyeballs watching something on my couch.
That is, I think, cathartic as well, is to
Yes.
have a really good cry, you know? I think that's an important thing we all need.
Amen.
So, yes,
Okay,
yes.
onward and upward.
Onward and upward. Oh, the marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Oh, Mrs. Maisel, how much do I love you? Oh, I have to say, I was not an immediate convert to the show way back in the beginning. I felt it was a little over the top. And I felt like it devolved a little bit into caricature, but then I came to understand the tone of the show, and then I was all on board. If you're not aware, I'll give you a strong recommendation to watch this. It's on Amazon, and it's very, very loosely based or inspired by the career of Joan Rivers. Joan Rivers did have a connection with Lenny Bruce, and did start out in a similar way to Miriam Maisel, and then we depart into the world of fiction. And what a wonderful world it is. If you don't think that careers that are male-dominated make it hard for women to break in, then we can't talk about this, because it is so difficult, and we get to see the different ways that she's trying to navigate it, and also her manager, the wonderful Alex Borstein, playing Susie, and how they, you know, it makes me think of John Belushi made a comment, like, chicks aren't funny, was one of the things he had said, and I'm like, you know, and so this is explored very well, and the costumes, oh my God, the hats, the gloves, the matching purses, I love it. But they also illustrate the gender roles and the time frame, and you know, it's kind of like Mad Men, but in Mrs. Maisel, you're more kind of, you know, focusing on the female experience of it. And what was neat was the way that both Midge Maisel and Susie Meyerson, the characters navigate this male-dominated world. And, you know, Mrs. Maisel stays pretty true to being feminine, I should say, with her outfits and the way she sort of works her way in.
Yes.
And Susie's going a more masculine, more like, you know, hitting it and balls to the walls kind of person. And I love that. I love that both women are trying to figure out how do you succeed. And, you know, staying ultra feminine and just be better than the men, or be a little bit more masculine and just keep at it. And I just love this. And I can't wait to see. I haven't actually finished it because I think
I don't even think the last.
I don't think the last episode's out. Yeah, but it's.
Because I haven't seen the most recent one, and I think there's one more after that. But so you love.
I love it, and I like that we're seeing a little bit more of kind of what this journey has cost her in terms of her relationships. So I'm interested to see that. But what are your thoughts?
So I loved the first 2 seasons of this. I was so about this show and thought, you know, the writing is just so amazing. And Tony Shalhoub is, you know, he's a masterclass in acting in this, especially in the first 2 seasons. Somewhere in season 3, they lost me. I don't know exactly why or where or how, but I just for me, it lost momentum. And I'll tell you, one of my criticisms of it is as we got to see her doing more stand-up, and I used to do stand-up, the weakest part of the writing
Was the
were the
stand-up.
jokes, which is always the case,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
It's very hard to write for stand-up jokes that are going to be translated without the, it's very hard. I'm not saying that it isn't, but it was, you know, bring in your best, bring in your
Yeah.
A-team, hire people.
Right.
Like, come on. You have, at this point, you're a hit show, and she's starting to do more stand-up. So that's where they lost me. And so I have not watched the end of the third and the fourth season. But I decided to come back in because it's the final season. And now I need to go back and watch the fourth season because I'm missing some things. But I really feel like they're bringing it. They're bringing their A game for this last season. It's a little bit hard. I mean, they don't, even though it's this schmaltzy, over-the-top, kind of campy thing, boy, they hit you hard.
Yeah.
I sort of enjoy that when
Yeah.
everything is like light, funny, boom.
Yeah.
You know, they bring something in, and I love that it's very clear that they're going to land this plane. They've not given themselves leeway to not end this. We're seeing flash forwards to the future so that we're seeing things that happen. It's not always pretty. I appreciate that. But the performances of this,
Yeah.
you know, it is just so noteworthy. It's so enjoyable to watch actors at the top of their game being given good scripts,
Yep.
like no expense spared to give them the scenario that they need to make it happen. It really is. I think it's award-worthy television. It's beautifully done. I'm excited to see how they are
How
going
they
to
wrap it up,
actually
yeah.
wrap it up. But I'm there for it.
Yep.
I'm all there for it.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. Oh, next one, Spellers. This is a documentary, and the biggest message of this documentary is presume competence, and I love that because I think a lot of our non-speaking individuals on the spectrum are underestimated. In fact, it's based on the book written by Jamie and J.B. Handley called Underestimated. And this is not a new issue to us in the, you know, those of us in the autism world, and it's about how these folks have found their voice through typing. And there's some questions about, oh, is it valid? And because there was a facilitated communication with something that was done several years ago. This is done in a very different way, but it still has that stink on it, if you will. And there's the goal of all of this is teaching the motor skills so that the person can be completely independent. And you do see the progression of that, and that I think is super important because the young Jamie Handley, he starts off with the stencil and, you know, pointing to the letters on the stencil, moves to a smaller stencil, moves to a laminated piece of paper, then moves to a keyboard that's held, and then a keyboard that's in a stand upright, and then finally a keyboard that's flat. So you see him completely independent. And I'm like, yes, and I've seen this. I know,
Me too.
I know young folks that have found their voice this way, and I know it to be true.
Yes.
So I hate the sort of criticism it's gotten. I hate the fact that the speech, I forget what the acronym is, but the Association of Speech, blah, 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 they basically said, don't do this. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You know, we as parents, I can't wait 20 years for 16 double-blind, placebo-controlled studies for everything. For some things, yes. But for things that are not harmful, like we implemented the diet for my son, the gluten and casein-free diet, was hugely impactful, wasn't gonna hurt him. And he, you know, we found it to be helpful. So it's always been like, what is helpful and isn't gonna harm him? And that's the direction we've always gone. That's what has guided us. And if it doesn't work, it's like, oh, well, we tried it, and that's fine. But, you know, so I don't see the harm in this. I'm sure there are folks out there that can give me their opinion, but honestly, from what I've seen and what these kiddos are able to do, it's amazing. And I'm like, please let them have a chance, you know? Let them have a chance.
And I think that this is a really important film. I think that one of the things this film is going to do is it's going to give parents hope, and it's going to cause them to go, okay, maybe I'm not going to listen to all these other people, and I will go and try it. And I think that that's important. I think that it's important that word get out. I love that they are looking at this in a different way and saying that for some types of autism, there is a physical component, and that the physical is, you know, that the words are up there, but getting it from here to here is a physical job. There's a whole lot of things that go into doing that, and that may be hampered, which might be other physical things happening too, but that perhaps there's a different way that we can get at this. So I love that message. I thought that that was really a message that needs to be gotten out to the world. I think the part of the film that I have a little bit of trouble, and by the way, I believe in this as well. I have friends, and I have been in the room where people have communicated, and I know 100% for sure they're communicating on themselves, and it's, you know, this is not BS. So I want to say that. I am a believer, and I have been in the room, and I'm basing that on what I have seen, and I've asked questions, and you know me, I'm a skeptic. Like, I'm like, okay, I want to see it this way and that way and the other thing. So, total believer. I don't know that the film is going to convince people who aren't in the autism community. And I feel that part of the reason why is that you know, the film makes this very cutting thing about, you know, why won't people believe? Why won't people believe? But then they never tell us why there is skepticism about this. They don't address that, and some of the visuals that I've talked to some people who've seen it who aren't a part of the autism community, and they're like, but, you know, they're holding this board in front of them and they're moving it away and they're moving it, and I would have a hard time poking it while they're like, they're going to be skeptical about it because they haven't seen what you and I have seen. And so I feel that in some ways, I wish that the film had been a little bit tighter about that, and I wish that they had addressed that there was this other type of facilitated communication that people got all excited about, and then they did some studies, and there's some very easy ways that you can show whether this is working and it's really the person doing it or not, and it was found that it wasn't. It was the facilitator. And they make it sound like there is no possible way that you can do the double blind. Okay, but if they had just in the film shown this is how we would do this study, and it was easy, and they did it with facilitated communication, and it didn't pass. And that's that you put headphones on the person who is holding the thing, so that they're hearing something else, and you ask the question and you see if it's. So I just wish that they had shown that, because I think they could have.
I think they could have as well.
I think they could have, and that would have quieted some of the skepticism that will come from the world outside of autism. But for the autism community, I think this is a great, great film. I think it's going to open a lot of people's eyes. We've asked and have been in talks with both the director and the editor to be on the show.
Oh, great.
And they're both have been busy, but I think that they are going to come on. Maybe they won't after what I just said. But I think it's an important film.
It is important, and actually I was lucky there were some Q&As that I was able to watch with some of the spellers and also with the therapist, and they did bring up the sort of the movement and whatever, and I observed, so I've seen it twice now, this film, and I observed that Dawn Marie Gavin, I think is how you say her name, she's rock solid. And she's one of the main therapists that's doing this. Some of the parents get a little loosey-goosey, you know, and I'm like, hey, it happens. We get, you know, that's the way that things go sometimes. But I really loved, like I said, seeing the progression of Jamie going from one to the other, and seeing it getting to the point where he's alone in the room and doing it. And I'm like, there you go. There you go. You know, and
well, I mean, I've been in the room with Emily Grodin, and you know, she types away, and you know, her facilitator, when she's asked a question, what she does is she goes like this to her. She pulls on her sweater, and then Emily knows it's time for her to but that's it. She's doing this, and I've been in the room. Emily's typing these beautiful things that Emily types. I will defend that with my life. Right? But, you know.
Well, and that's the thing. I think that they knew the criticism would be there, and,
Right.
and it would have been nice to address that. And
Yeah.
and that was what I came away from too, because I think a lot of times within our community there are a lot of these films that come out about different issues, and I'm like, well, you're not going to convince anybody that doesn't already think,
Right.
and then maybe that's not the job. I don't know, because that's a heavy lift, but
Yeah,
like you
exactly.
said,
I
yeah.
think it's important for the autism community. I think some people will see it. I think it's going to create more questions. Maybe it'll spur the studies to be done.
I hope
which
so.
needs to happen. I think it's an important film. I'm glad they made it. I'm in support of it. I hope that you guys will watch it. You can if you go on their website, you can see all the places where they're doing showings and doing talkbacks, but you can also rent it online. It's like $10.
Yeah, and I think at this point there may be it may be available free now.
okay.
So it may either be $10 or it may be free. So
It's worth it,
Spellers.com,
$10,
and
yes.
yeah, and it's worth it.
It
Yes,
is worth it. It's absolutely worth it. Everybody's
done.
talking about it, and they should be talking about it. Craving, you asked me if I could see, and I'm, for whatever
and I
reasons,
forgot to
the comments aren't showing up for me, so I don't know what else.
I'm not even sure where I'm supposed to look. I'm sorry.
Okay, so Amanda had written in and said the movie was amazing,
Ah.
and it has her second guessing everything. And I think that for any parent that has a nonverbal child, I think that it will. It will cause you to look at things in a different way, and you should watch it.
Yes,
You
absolutely.
should definitely, it's well worth watching.
Yes, yes, and I think also.
Amanda watched it twice. as did you. I didn't make
Amanda.
it twice, but I would have. But
Yeah.
But anyway, so
yeah.
all
Well,
the-
and the other thing too, the presuming competence, I think, is so important, because we made a big mistake early on of kind of talking about my son in front of him. Nothing horrible, but it's still not what you should do.
Yeah.
And I think when I came to understand that he was taking in more than he was able to,
Yeah.
I felt terrible, and I was like, that's it. We're not ever talking about him in front of him except to say, you're doing great, my friend. You're fabulous. And then if there are issues you need to address with the therapist, you do it somewhere else. You're not, because that whole process is, it's so hard.
But
Anyway.
we run into it with the story that I always tell is when, on the day that my son turned 3, it was his last day of having speech and his early start program with his speech and language pathologist, who I'd loved, who had been so kind to my son, but she was going to test him on that day. And she had one of those flip boards that had pictures, right? And she said, okay, touch the one that you would cook with. And I thought, well, he's not going to know that. And my son was looking over here. He wasn't even looking at this thing, and he whapped it and hit the frying pan. And I sat up and I went, what?
Yeah.
I mean, this is when my child was nonverbal. And she said to me, oh no, that was a fluke. And so then she turned the page, and now there were only 2 things there before, and now there were like 4 things. And she said, and he's looking over here and he's playing with something, whatever. And she said, which one of these things would you write with? And I was like, he doesn't, he doesn't respond to his name. He doesn't know that. And he's looking over here and he hits the pen. And I went, that's not a fluke.
That's
and
not a
she
fluke.
said, I don't want you to get excited. It's totally a fluke. And she turned, and he did it like 8 times.
Yeah, no longer
and
a fluke.
I picked him up and left, and I was like, he is understanding so much more than I knew. And yet she was saying, no, don't get excited, don't.
Well, that's sort of their mom, that makes
pat
me
me on the head.
Yeah, no,
Stop.
yeah,
Stop.
Yep.
Knock
Amen.
it the
Amen.
heck off. Okay, here we go.
Next. Oh, Indian, and from the intense to the frothy,
Yes.
Indian matchmaking. This show, I love this show.
Me too.
It's so much fun. Basic premise: Indian families living all over the world just want to see their kids get married, and the matchmaker Seema from Mumbai,
Yes.
Seema auntie, she wants you to consider all your options when she's talking to you, and keep an open mind, and each of her potential matches have to list things they want in a life partner and have their, what she calls biodata, we'll share the biodata, and it's presented like a resume to potential matches. And whenever my husband and I watch this show, we end up having these long conversations about what it is, what our lists were, and all those different things. And the
Moira, you're getting your husband to watch Indian matchmaking with you?
loves
Don't
it.
we all want to be Moira when we grow up?
Oh, it's fabulous. And one of the things that was early in our, well, I had a hairdresser in the 80s, fabulous, I had fabulous 80s hair.
Yes.
And I remember talking to her and saying, how do you know what, you know, how do you find your match and blah, blah, blah. And she said, make a list. And I was like, make a list.
Right.
And then I was thinking like, well, what would the list be? And then, you know, when you think about looks and all these things, it's like, all right, whatever, that's one thing, you know. But then one of the things on my list was must love Monty Python.
Okay.
And I thought, why is that a deal breaker for me? But then I realized it's stupid, but it's not. It was a kind of a perspective. It was kind of a sense of humor. And yeah, that was the thing, you know. So weirdly, that's, you know, watching that is funny. And, you know, Seema Auntie tells you you're only going to get 60 to 70% and blah, blah, blah.
Especially when it comes to the physical things.
Oh, yes. Well, and that's the thing I think is so interesting,
Yeah.
is when they're very fixated on the physical, they're not as open to actually getting to know this person.
Yeah.
And there was one gal who I thought was rude, who kind of complained that the guy didn't look as much like his picture anymore.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that's just rude, you know. And she's, you know, she ends up with somebody else, and I'm like, that's probably good, you know. I think he dodged a bullet there. But yeah, so it's an interesting, I don't know. Like I said, it ends up with all these discussions about life and, you know.
I love this show too, and I've watched all the seasons of it now. And I love that, unlike a lot of other reality shows, you know, Seema shows up and it always starts with, hello, I'm Seema from Mumbai.
From Mumbai,
And I love that. And, you know, and she counsels them, and it's not just about her matchmaking them, because usually every season there's at least one person who doesn't end up finding their match with the matches that Seema has done, but finds a match on their own, because Seema gets them to look at their circumstances different, and they always say, I think this opened me up to it. And I sort of love that they're showing, you know, that they're not making all like she's the magic.
She's the magic of it,
So I love that. And I love to see when people are finding their way, when they're discovering things, like seeing people think through and change. I absolutely love that. And I think it's very endearing. Plus, you get to know all these things culturally about India that I did not know and love now.
Yes, yes.
I was like, okay, I didn't know that. I just, and of course, now they've franchised it. Now we have Jewish matchmaking.
Which I just binged.
And I've only seen like the trailer for it. I haven't seen it. Is it good?
I enjoyed it.
Okay.
I enjoyed it, and it's neat because again, it's a different culture, and then there's the levels of how much, like some, with Indian matchmaking, it was some like, has to speak Hindi, has to, you know, all the, and it can get drilled down more specifically, which I'm like, well, that does make sense when you're talking about families combining. It's not impossible to combine families from different cultures. It happens all the time, you know, thank God. But I think it's like if you're not thinking like, I'm not already in love with this person, so I need to kind of figure out what my priorities are, and it's like that with the Jewish matchmaking too. So I enjoyed that. I think that was a good one.
And I will tell you, I think that all of these dating shows, if you can get your kids to watch them, I think they're good lessons for our kids, because you get to see, it's video modeling of dating, and you get to see a discussion of what worked and what didn't. In one of the earlier seasons of Indian matchmaking, there was a guy who was like, well, she's got to be hot. She's got to be hot, she's got to be hot, she's got to be hot. And Seema would send him on dates with some really wonderful people that he was like, I really enjoyed spending time with her. But, you know, I just don't, it's not, the magic isn't there, whatever. And then finally she says, okay, and she finds him somebody really hot. And he goes on the date with her, and at the end, the girl says, I got to be honest, I think we're just friends. And then goes off and says, you know, he's not very hot. And I thought, oh, I'd love to have been in the room when he watched that back. I'll bet he ended up with somebody very happy after that, because that's a lesson in and of itself. You know, what it's like to be with somebody who's only thinking about, you know, are you hot enough for my meter?
Yeah. I know.
Oy, oy, oy.
I know, and it's so limiting. Yeah, it's so limiting. So fun, and like I said, lots of discussions to be had watching this. So,
Netflix, very great.
Cool stuff. All right.
Okay.
Next one. And this is our last one, isn't it? I think.
Is it?
So I have a lot to say.
Okay,
so,
great.
Okay, Champions, with Woody Harrelson and a fabulous cast of young adults that have disabilities, and they are all individuals with disabilities, which I think is a wonderful representation. So the setup is, it's a movie about a disgraced basketball coach who has to do 90 days of community service, and this means coaching a team of adults with special needs. It's a setup for the "they taught me more than I taught them" trope, and it feels pretty much by the numbers, in my opinion. I love the cast being made up of adults with special needs. They were amazing.
They were.
And Woody Harrelson has been quoted as saying this is the best cast he's ever worked with, and I do not doubt that for a second. I just wish they'd given them more to do.
Yeah.
I really feel that way. I feel like they were working towards, I feel like we are all working towards true representation. And the next step, I think, is going to be recognizing that these special needs actors do have the range. And the sky's the limit, you know?
Yeah.
So it was overly cautious, much like when we did the story of Luke. You mentioned how they said, we cannot cast an actor who actually has autism in this role because blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, you can. Yeah. And I feel like the folks behind this film may have been a little hesitant to give them really meaty things to do. The love interest shows up, the fabulous Caitlin Olsen. I adore her. She was in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and also in Hacks. Hilarious, love her. And she had a conflict about being overprotective of her sibling with, I believe he had Down syndrome, and she was like very protective of him. And she was struggling on how much independence to give him. And I kind of wanted him to be part of that conversation, and he was not. So I was kind of like, you know, because I thought this is something that I think is a great conversation to see. And it resonated very strongly with me, the issue. So I was kind of like, oh, come on. Another fabulous moment is between Harrelson and the teammate that refuses to play for him. And that is played by, Harrelson's character is focused on winning, so he wants to get this kid back on the team because he's the best player, and the character's name is Darius, and he's played by a young man named Joshua Felder, and he's fabulous, this young man, and when he says his reason for not wanting to work with Woody Harrelson's character, that was wonderful, and I'm like, look at that scene, that was great. You know, and so I kind of was like, ooh, I wanted more of them and what they were feeling about everything they were going through. And I feel like they missed the mark on that. And I do get annoyed by this person with disabilities taught me to be a better person. I'm like, they're a human being. They have a life. They're not there to make you feel better, you know? And maybe I'm a little touchy about that, you know, but what were your thoughts on this?
I think it's a really good film. I think it's very watchable. I'm sorry that it didn't do better in box office and that our community didn't embrace it more. Because I think that it is a stepping stone film for our community to show that these actors do have this range and can do this. And I think it's a good movie. I think it's a great movie it's available now on demand. It's $20. I think that, you know, it's one of those movies that later on, like Thanksgiving, it's going to be the movie that people, when it's like available for free or less, people are going to watch it and they're going to go, I don't understand why this didn't get more attention, because I think it's a good movie. I think that it could have been a great movie. And I think that it did fall short. It's interesting that your take on it, because when my husband and I were talking about it afterwards, and I said, it's a really good movie. I wish it had just been a great movie. And I'm trying to figure out like what would have made it a great movie, and why do I not feel that it was a great movie? And Jim said, yeah, it's perfectly okay, but it never crested that. I mean, it's a feel-good movie, but it didn't, you know, that thing I was saying before about, you know, you can bring us along and whatever, and then punch.
Yes.
There wasn't enough of the punch.
Yeah.
And I also felt like this is a Bobby Farrelly movie, and I think, you know, I think the confidence level of working with this cast, maybe, but I was seeing it more on Woody Harrelson's end.
Oh.
I love Woody Harrelson. And I know what Woody Harrelson can do as an actor, and he can go there. And he's a little bit like Jim Carrey. And if he's put in the wrong hands with the wrong people, because Jim Carrey is a great actor and can go to amazing places, real places, as an actor, but I think sometimes directors get a little like, you know, these guys have such a, they try to be a little hands off with them, and I think that there was another layer of Woody Harrelson that we could have gotten to, that I know we could have gotten to, but that maybe they were worried about time schedules and things because we want to be respectful of the people that, you know, are there that are differently abled. I don't know. I don't know what was going on.
There was a hesitancy, though. You felt it too.
Yeah, and I really felt like I really wanted to see emotional, if this is what the film is going to be, which is that, because the film is very much Woody's film. It's his journey that we're seeing about how he goes from someone who does not care about the people on his team to he goes to caring about the people on his team. I think I really needed to see him on his knees. I needed to see him leveled. Instead, I don't want to give anything away, but there's a moment when it all sort of shifts for him, and I was like, this didn't have it for me. And I think that it would have been very easy, a little script tweak, a little directing tweak, and it was all there. All the components were there, but yes, hesitancy.
Yeah.
And I do want to say, there were so many good cast members in this all the way around, supporting cast. I mean, Ernie Hudson, and I couldn't list them all. If you would put that full screen again for a second, Traven. But I did list the 2 cast members that we've already had on the show, that we've interviewed. Matthew Vonderay, I think is how you say his name.
Oh, wonderful.
He was one of the members on the team, the one with all the 2 girlfriends.
Yes.
Who was hilarious. And then Casey Metcalf, who is actually an actor on the autism spectrum, he's the one that his finger is bent and all the, who did a lovely job too. We had him on the show with his mom and talking about it, and he said what a wonderful experience it was being a part of this film, and how generous Woody was, and how, you know, everybody worked on it. I'm glad that everybody was fabulous on set.
Yes.
But I think each time that a movie like this happens, that everybody's going to go, oh, and you know, taking it back to today is, as we said, Kobe Bird's 21st birthday, and I remember when he was being cast on The Good Doctor, and he was like a 16-year-old at the time, and I know that, you know, there was some concern about, like, was he going to be able to handle the rigors of from production? His mom was like, oh no, he can handle
it. Yeah.
And but that I know that once they were done, and I feel like they were up in Canada for like 11 days for that first show, and that everybody on set was like, oh, this guy's a professional.
Yeah.
And he's as much of a professional as Freddie Highmore, and he can totally handle this, and that it felt like a crack in the egg.
And I call this a stepping stone as well. I feel like every time, and I think that's why, like, even when I was talking about with women, can women be funny? You know, all these different things, these different stories from different voices.
Yeah.
It's like, give them a chance, and then it's a stepping stone towards, like, look, this can be good. This can be something that people can enjoy and connect with.
But it does feel like the people who are controlling the money to make the films are being a little bit slow to learn.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think you're right. And I wonder, you wonder too if they're getting notes from somewhere, the money people, like, you know,
but
watch out.
Even this film, I don't feel like they promoted it as much as they could have. I don't feel like they backed it monetarily. And it didn't do well in the box office. But then, you know, why would it if you didn't back it?
Why would it if you didn't? Yeah. Yeah. No,
So
that's true.
you know, it makes it hard for them to say, okay, let's do another one, because we know that the box office matters. But even then, you know, box office matters. But then, you know, because look at Bridesmaids. That decimated the box office. Everybody's like, fluke.
Fluke. Exactly.
Not a fluke.
Yeah.
Not a fluke.
Exactly.
Wake
I
up,
guess it's baby
smell the
steps,
coffee.
but it's frustrating.
But that is our last one. Is it really? We didn't think we were going to be able to get
Yeah,
through
we
all
thought
of them.
we
That's
had
crazy.
too
That's
many.
amazing.
But yeah,
Okay,
we did
so what have you been watching since we decided on this? Since we have
decided
a minute.
as well, like I said, I watch Jewish Matchmaker
Yeah.
or Matchmaking, which I think is super fun. So I'm happy to talk about that next time.
Okay.
I'm trying. Oh, The Great. I don't know if you
Oh, I watched
there's
the
a,
first season, but I haven't watched the second.
There's a new one that's dropped.
The third one?
I think.
Oh my
yeah,
gosh,
I've
okay.
lost track. Fabulous,
Okay.
fun. Let me see, what else have I been watching?
We watched Sweet Tooth. Did you watch that, the second
I
season?
started that, and then we kind of lost steam on it.
Yeah.
And how is it? Because it's not the
Well,
new.
once you've seen The Last of Us, it's basically the same thing, and it just
Oh.
doesn't compare.
I see The Last of Us.
Oh, nothing compares.
Forget about it.
Nothing
It
compares.
gives them all the awards.
Right,
Yeah.
shove them all the way over. Yeah, but you know what I watched that I can't stop talking about is The Diplomat.
Oh, you had mentioned that, and I think I need to take a look. And that's Kerry Russell.
It's Kerry Russell. I've never been a big fan of Kerry Russell, but she's fabulous, and it's got Rufus Sewell. And I mean, Rufus Sewell, you know,
Yeah.
anything, you know, he can just read the phone book to me, and he can do it fully clothed. I'm all good. I'll sit there for hours.
I'm looking forward to the next season of Good Omens. I don't know if you watched that.
I haven't watched that at all.
Yeah, that is something. Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman created property, and then Terry Pratchett passed away, but he and Neil Gaiman had spoken about what the next book or season would look like. So that's got Michael Sheen and David Tennant, and they're both
them.
angels, and one is David Tennant gets to be the sort of, you know, bad angel.
Okay. All right.
And it's fun. Yeah.
Well, with the writer's strike, it's going to get really interesting here any minute because there's going to be a slowdown of what we get to see. And it looks like very likely that SAG-AFTRA is going to go out on strike too.
I've heard also the Directors Guild is considering going in solidarity, which is good because I think their change needs to happen. But maybe we'll hit a bunch of rewind films then for the next one.
Maybe, but we don't want to leave. We said a happy birthday to Kobe Bird earlier, but we also want to congratulate you because your daughter has a very important thing that's happening. Do you want to share?
Yes, my beautiful daughter is graduating from Chapman from Dodge Film School this weekend, and we are just so proud walking on air. She's amazing. And I actually showed her Kobe's short film that he did with his mother, and she loved it. And so, yes, wonderful.
So, and she's
new
graduating
voice.
in screenwriting, correct?
She is, yeah. It's actually, the major is called television writing and production, but they're sort of revamping it. So this class, I think, is the last one with that label of television writing and production. She's gotten to do a lot of different things. She's done a lot of different roles on set. And it's been a great experience for her. So
well, we can't wait until there are things that we can be talking about that she has done.
Yeah,
so
of course,
she's
I
on
will
her
be
way.
completely unbiased.
Well, of course, you're a mother. Of course, she'll be unbiased. What's to say? Anyway, so congratulations to you, to the whole family. Well, I'm sorry, Traven, say again. So Amanda wanted to know what film school, Chapman.
Chapman, yeah, Chapman University, Dodge College of Film, and
great
fabulous school. It's been a great experience for her.
Wonderful.
Pandemic and aside, gap year thrown in there in the middle because of the pandemic. But
Amanda said amazing congratulations, and we all say amazing congratulations. It's a big deal.
Yeah,
That's a lot of hard work getting a kiddo through college and living through it.
Through it.
Watching them go through it. It's hard work.
Yep.
So congratulations to
you
all
so
of you,
much.
and most especially to her.
Thank you so much.
So that's it for today. Stay tuned tomorrow for Stories from the Spectrum. We'll be back on Monday for a parent-to-parent talk, and Dr. Grant Pichet will be here on Tuesday, I think. I have to think about that. I think so. But we'll be back next month with more stuff to talk about. Tell us if there's something you want us to review. I know for a while you guys were sending us rewind things. It doesn't have to be something new. If there's something that you've seen that you want us to review, let us know, because we really love watching movies and TV, so we'll watch it.
I'm doing it anyway.
There we go. There we go. All right, you guys, that's it for now. Give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. And anything you want to say?
Mwah.
There we go.
Take care.
All right, bye-bye, you guys.